In the silent corridors of Buckingham Palace, where golden lights spill over the cold marble floors, there is a name that time can never erase: Diana. She is no longer present with her radiant smile or gentle blue eyes, yet her imprint lingers in every story, every gaze of the public, like a truth that cannot be buried. One may try to hide it, build ever higher walls to keep the memories at bay, but mention Diana's name, and the entire palace seems to pause, while the hearts of the people ache all the more. Yet, bitterly, the jewels once belonging to Diana, symbols not just of priceless stones but of love, hope, and wounds that never healed, now rest in someone else's hands. Not William, not Harry, the children who deserve to hold their mother's keepsakes, but Camilla, the woman who once stepped into Diana's marriage like a shadow, now sits openly on the throne, wearing the treasures of the woman whose life she helped shatter. Is it merely jewelry, or is it the appropriation of memory? Can anyone believe that by wearing these stones, Camilla could erase Diana from the hearts of millions? Or does each glittering necklace, each shining gem on her wrist or neck, only remind the public more vividly of who they truly belong to? And the painful question arises: Diana's jewels, whose hands are they in now? And do they really belong to the one wearing them? Camilla? The story might have remained locked behind those heavy doors forever, if not for one royal figure, long considered cold and reserved, deciding to break the silence. That figure is Princess Anne, known for her discipline, principles, and disdain for ostentation. She shook the palace to its core with an ultimatum. Camilla must return the jewels that once belonged to Diana. Her declaration was more than a defense of heirlooms. It was a hammer striking through the royal facade, reopening wounds that the family had long tried to hide. People often say jewels are mere luxury for the aristocracy, but for Diana, every piece she wore carried a deeper meaning, nearly inseparable from her identity as the people's princess. Take her legendary engagement ring, a massive sapphire encircled by diamonds, sparkling like a single tear caught in the palace's golden light. It wasn't the most expensive gem in the royal collection, but its symbolic weight was unparalleled. The ring marked the beginning of a marriage the world hoped would be a fairy tale, yet it also became an invisible shackle, binding Diana to a tragic union with Prince Charles. When she smiled wearing it, the public cheered, believing in love. But when that happiness shattered, the sapphire glimmered coldly on her finger, silently reminding the world that love may pretend, but gems never lie. Ironically, today, that very ring shines on Princess Catherine's hand, celebrated as a symbol of legacy. Yet who remembers it once belonged to a woman who wept alone in a cold room, betrayed and abandoned? Then there is the four-strand pearl necklace with a large sapphire clasp, one of Diana's favorites. Whenever she appeared wearing it, the public was captivated by an indescribable elegance. Pearls traditionally symbolize purity and nobility, but for Diana, they also acted as a soft shield, concealing the pains she swallowed quietly. Many were astonished when they saw her amid the divorce announcement, still wearing the necklace with a bright, composed smile, as if to say to the world, though love has failed, dignity remains intact. And again, it is bitterly ironic that these same pearls now serve as props for displays of power, transformed from symbols of grace and private pride into mere ornaments for those keen to flaunt status. If any piece could embody both Diana's love and her resentment, it would be the lover's knot tiara. Crafted from diamonds and pearls, heavy enough to give her headaches at every event, it nonetheless helped shape the public image of the people's princess. Diana transformed this cold royal heirloom into a symbol of charm and approachability. People remembered her gentle smile beneath the tiara's sparkling diamonds, not the aloof pride of a queen. Yet history repeated its cruel jest. Today, when the tiara rests on another head, it loses the warm light once associated with Diana, replaced only by the cold display of power. At first glance, Diana's jewelry may seem like mere gold and gemstones, but look closer. and each piece tells the story of a woman who was both a dazzling muse and a victim crushed by the ruthless machinery of royalty. Those gems shone because of Diana, not the other way around. When she passed away, their true value lay not in wealth, but in memory, in the endless grief the public felt for her. Yet now, when those same pieces appear on someone else's body, all that remains is a forced imitation. Symbols of compassion are draped over the face of power, turning the glow of the past into a tragicomic display within the palace walls. And from those sparkling jewels, the story does not end with Diana. Ironically, when she left this world, her treasures were not placed firmly in the hands of her sons. As many had hoped, piece by piece, they fell into Camilla's hands. Since she ascended to her position as queen, the public has been forced to witness increasingly hard-to-swallow jewelry performances. People may tolerate Camilla wearing silk gowns or her own jewelry, but the repeated public appearances with Diana's pieces feel like a stab straight into the collective memory of the nation. Every time Camilla appears, her half-smile paired with pearls or a familiar tiara ignites the media. Headlines erupt. Diana's legacy exploited. Old wounds reopened. The public seethes, viewing it as a blatant insult. To them, these jewels are not mere royal wealth. They are a part of the very essence of a woman who once made the world weep. Yet now the heirlooms are repurposed as props for Camilla to flaunt power, as if to proclaim, I have not only captured Charles's heart, I have claimed Diana's legacy as my own. A statement unspoken, yet everyone hears it, bitter and cruel. Camilla's appearances with Diana's jewelry do more than provoke outrage. They expose deep fissures within the royal family itself. The contrast is unbearable. On one side, Diana, pure and compassionate. On the other, Camilla, cold, defiant, seemingly reveling in public anger. She does not shrink back or feign humility. Rather, she appears more confident each time she dons the belongings of the woman she once bested in love. It is as though, instead of remorse, she regards them as spoils from a battle she has already won. Photographs in the press only stoke public fury. Once, Camilla appeared at a Windsor event wearing Diana's pearl necklace. Another time, she sported Diana's beloved sapphire brooch. The crowd seems just one spark away from erupting. They have not forgotten Diana's suffering, nor Camilla's role in it. So seeing her wear Diana's items is like salt on a wound that has never healed. Western media often underscore the irony. One paper quipped, if these jewels could speak, they would scream every time they were taken out of their box. Another mocked, Diana brought warmth to the gems. Camilla leaves them cold as ice. The public is even more blunt. She may have taken Charles, but she will never take the love we have for Diana. Each time Camilla displays Diana's jewelry, public outrage flares anew, keeping the royal family under constant scrutiny. Yet while the public's anger simmers, the dynamics inside the palace are even more complex, particularly for Princess Anne. Unlike other family members who choose silence, Anne has long been known for her candor, firmness, and unwavering loyalty to the core values of the monarchy. For her, Diana was not just an unfortunate sister-in-law. She was a piece of history testing the honor of the royal family. And now, for Camilla to boldly wear Diana's belongings is a brazen challenge. How could Anne ever accept it? In truth, every time Camilla appeared wearing a piece of jewelry once belonging to Diana, Princess Anne's gaze seemed to grow colder. She did not need to speak, yet those who were attentive could sense her simmering discomfort. At formal ceremonies, when Camilla confidently stood beside the king with glittering jewels, Anne maintained a rigid expression, sometimes turning away, sometimes walking straight past, as if to deny the presence of this new sister-in-law. It was not merely a personal reaction, but a sign of a simmering conflict waiting to erupt. The public could only watch and feel the cruel irony. Diana may have been gone, but her presence lingered in every gem, every crown. For this reason, Camilla's use of them was not merely a fashion choice. It was the reenactment of an entire love tragedy, a battle over legacy in which the losers were the people, while the apparent winner, at least on the surface, was Camilla. Yet truth has many layers. If Camilla believed that by wearing these jewels, she could claim Diana's former radiance, she was mistaken. All she harvested was prolonged public outrage and cold, piercing looks from within the royal family itself. Among all those gazes, none were colder than Princess Anne's. For Anne, this was not simply about jewelry, it was about honor, a red line that could not be trampled. From this moment, the simmering tension between Camilla and Anne began to reveal itself more clearly than ever. After years of witnessing displays of power through Diana's former possessions, Anne could remain silent no longer. In a secret meeting with key family members, she stated plainly, Diana's jewelry must be returned to William and Harry, not for monetary value, not for the sake of the items themselves, but because the memory of Diana, the image of a woman who touched the hearts of a nation, deserved to be preserved intact. Every diamond, every string of pearls, every crown is a symbol of a person, a story, a life stolen too soon. Anne could not hide her emotion as she recalled private memories. She remembered vividly Diana sitting alone in the palace's cold rooms, eyes brimming, whispering of loneliness and feeling trapped behind gilded walls. She once told me that every step, every phone call was monitored, and that there was no one she could trust. Anne recounted, her voice a mixture of sorrow and regret. It was this pain, the loneliness Diana endured in a marriage that seemed like a fairy tale, that compelled Anne to act. She understood that silence, maintained for too long, had become complicity in the injustice Diana suffered. In Anne's eyes, reclaiming the jewelry was never simply a legal or material matter. It was a powerful message. Diana lives on in her sons, in the memories of those who loved her, and anyone daring to turn her legacy into a display of power could no longer ignore that fact. She looked Camilla in the eye, her gaze firm but laced with sorrow. This is not about hatred. It is justice for the deceased. In that moment, irony crept in. No one could have predicted that someone as composed and principled as Anne would need to wield such authority to defend her sister-in-law's memory. Not only Camilla, but Charles also found himself in a difficult position. Anne knew he still loved Diana, and deep down, his guilt had never faded. She saw the conflict in his eyes, anger at being challenged, yet remorse for holding on to Diana's possessions as a way to cling to the past without ever truly honoring it. Anne thought wryly, Charles, perhaps you were too intoxicated by the feeling of owning the past to recognize your responsibility to the present. The gems and crowns Diana once wore with pride had now become instruments exposing the turmoil within his soul. Anne also admitted that the decision to speak out had not been easy. She had remained silent for too long, allowing Camilla to appear publicly with Diana's heirlooms, leaving the media and the public in outrage without resolution. But now, realizing that her silence had helped erode Diana's moral legacy, she resolved to act. Her voice was firm yet warm. I will no longer stand aside. Diana's memory must be returned to its rightful place, to her sons, and to all who loved her. The scene of Anne delivering her ultimatum, each word precise and unyielding, marked a turning point in the conflict that the public had only heard whispers about. Camilla, standing there with a frosty expression, likely never imagined that someone like Anne would be so forthright. Meanwhile, Charles looked flustered, his eyes filled with a mix of anger and remorse, realizing that his indulgence in the past was now being openly challenged. Everyone in the room felt the weight of the moment. This was not merely about reclaiming jewelry. It was a reaffirmation of Diana's spiritual authority, even in her absence. Anne recalled Diana's confessions about loneliness, abandonment, and the long, restless nights in the vast palace she called the Golden Castle. Now, every one of those words echoed in Anne's mind as she looked at the gems and crowns, understanding that silence had done harm to both Diana and those she loved. Reclaiming the jewelry was not only a matter of justice, it was also a belated apology. The only way Anne could make amends for her own past inaction. At that moment, a narrator's voice, equal parts wry and compassionate, might remark, Perhaps Camilla believes that power and luxury are everything, but Diana left more than jewelry. She left the hearts of the people. And now Anne stands as the reminder that her legacy cannot be turned into anyone's personal game. Yet no one could have predicted that Anne's declaration would ignite Camilla's latent fury. As the official queen, she immediately objected. These jewels were hers, and she had the right to wear them. In Camilla's eyes, royal power and image were supreme. "I will not let Diana continue to overshadow me," she asserted, her voice cold as ice. Instantly, the palace drawing room seemed to heat up with every word, all eyes fixed on the woman standing under the brilliant lights, proud yet calculating. Camilla argued that wearing Diana's jewelry was not merely a personal preference, but a way to protect the image of the monarchy. In her view, as long as Diana's presence lingered in the gems and crowns, the public would continue to compare, to remind, and to place her in the perpetual outsider position. But the narrative's voice sneered. Camilla had forgotten that such comparisons did nothing to enhance her image and only highlighted the emptiness of the power she was trying to construct. She sought the throne in its entirety, willing to erase even the memory of the deceased, a reckless, cold ambition that would make anyone shiver. Anne observed quietly. Her heart ached for Diana. The reminders of her solitude and sense of abandonment in the palace still echoed in Anne's mind. She remembered Diana telling her that every look, every call, every step was monitored, and that there was no one she could trust. The gems, once symbols of warmth and intimacy, had now been turned into instruments of power and display. Anne felt a mixture of anger and sorrow. Anger at Camilla's callousness, sorrow that Diana was no longer there to protect herself. Tension escalated as Camilla continued. "I am the queen. I have the right to keep everything that belonged to Diana. This is my portion, and the public must acknowledge it." Her tone conveyed not only authority, but also strategy, a calculated attempt to extinguish all resistance. But Anne Boffin, with her inherent resolve, did not flinch. She replied slowly and decisively, "This is not about personal power. It is about respecting Diana's memory and our responsibility to those who are gone. These items are not merely jewelry. They are pieces of memory that no one has the right to claim." The room seemed suspended between two extremes. On one side, Camilla with her arrogance and icy composure. On the other, Anne, resolute yet full of sorrow for a past forgotten. To the public, this was not merely a battle over jewelry, but a symbol of the clash between power and conscience, between personal ambition and justice for the departed. In those tense moments, Camilla's eyes were sharp and calculating, while Anne's gaze remained steadfast, heavy with compassion. Anne understood that if she stayed silent, Diana's memory would be suffocated, reduced to ornaments serving the ambitions of someone determined to erase the past. That was why she spoke so firmly, without compromise. Years of silence had been a mistake, and now was the time for action. No matter how enraged it might make Camilla, in that instant, the irony was palpable. Camilla might believe she held the throne in her grasp, but in truth, she could only claim material possessions. Diana's memory, love, and kindness remained forever beyond her reach. That very impotence created a conflict that could not be reconciled, right in the heart of Buckingham Palace. The air in the room was so heavy that it felt as though the entire palace was holding its breath. As Camilla heard Anne's unequivocal demand to return the jewelry to William and Harry, her icy expression first turned to shock, then to quiet rage. She had never imagined that such a challenge would come from Anne, long known for her principle, coldness, and reserve. But Anne's silence had ended, and Camilla realized with alarm that royal power and image, however solid they seemed, could not obscure the truth of the past. Then, unexpectedly, Charles spoke, not to defend Camilla, not to confront Anne, but for himself. His face flushed, his voice trembling, yet tense. I still love Diana. I know this sounds strange, but I must keep those pieces of jewelry. They are the last memories I have of her." The room fell silent. No one spoke. Only the pounding of hearts echoed against the gilded walls. Camilla, who had believed her power absolute, was stunned into speechlessness. Her eyes flashed with tension and anger, yet also with the dawning realization that the truth of Charles's heart had never left Diana. Each jewel, each necklace, each crown now served as evidence of an enduring love and the guilt that had haunted him for years. Camilla might claim the throne, seeking control of the present, but Charles, a king with a crown upon his head, acknowledged that the memory of his late wife was what he cherished most. Anne stood quietly by, her gaze cold and razor-sharp. She observed every expression, every gesture, every moment of tension spreading between Charles and Camilla. A sardonic thought flitted through her mind. A king sitting beside the queen, yet holding the shadow, memory, and love of his former wife. A truth never spoken in royal history, and it was this admission that sent a tremor through the palace, as if every wall, every painting, every gilded object bore witness to the astonishing moment. Charles continued, his voice choked with emotion. I have tried to forget, tried to move on, but I cannot. Every time I see the jewelry, I see Diana before me. I do not want to hide this anymore. No one can take her memory from my heart. Anne listened, a surge of sorrow and affection for Diana rising within her. She knew that Charles's confession, though belated, was proof that Diana still lived, at least in the memories and hearts of those who loved her. Camilla drew a long breath, trying to regain composure. But the truth was undeniable. She could not claim both Charles's past and present. Every plan, every ambition, every scheme to construct the image of a powerful queen crumbled before the undeniable fact that Charles's heart had never left Diana. And Anne's sardonic voice seemed to echo through the room. Camilla may want the throne in its entirety, but a throne can never hold both past and present without distortion. In that moment of intense tension, Charles stepped toward a glass cabinet where Diana's jewelry was kept. He reached out, touching the blue sapphire ring, the pearl necklace, and the lover's knot tiara, as if trying to feel Diana's presence once more through each piece. His voice trembled, yet was utterly sincere. If I let go of the memory, the love, and everything Diana left for my sons. I cannot. Camilla stood there, eyes wide, realizing that no one could challenge this spiritual bond. Anne let out a sigh, a mix of compassion and irony. Perhaps she had waited too long for this moment. Her previous silence had emboldened Camilla, who believed Diana had completely vanished from the palace, from Charles's heart, and from royal history. But now Anne saw clearly that Camilla's power was superficial. It was love, memory, and respect for Diana that truly made the palace tremble. In that instant, Anne recalled Diana's confessions, the feeling of being trapped, of loneliness, under constant surveillance, with nowhere left to trust. Now, each piece of jewelry was living proof of that pain, of sacrifices never acknowledged. Charles's admission was not only an apology to Diana, but an undeniable truth Camilla could not deny. Diana's memory was inviolable. Camilla tried to speak, but her words faltered against the weight of the truth Charles had declared. Anne watched quietly, her heart heavy with empathy for Diana, yet aware of the moral victory unfolding. The jewelry would return to its rightful owners, William and Harry. This was no longer a story about power, it was about love, remorse, and responsibility toward the memory of the departed. The tension in the palace had not yet eased when Anne's gaze shifted toward the two young men, William and Harry, the princes, who had once followed their mother's coffin, were now at the center of a dispute that had seemed merely about jewelry. Anne could never forget those harrowing days, two small boys in stiff uniforms, eyes heavy with grief, the world watching their loss. Now, the divide between them was no longer private. It was a direct consequence of Diana's tragedy, hidden beneath a false glamour and obligatory diplomatic smiles. Anne felt that pain like a dagger, both sorrowful and ironic. The boys, once loved and protected, now had to witness the power games of adults who called themselves wise stewards of the palace. William and Harry were not only Diana's sons, they were living witnesses to a distorted history where love and respect had been sidelined to serve personal ambition. Anne sighed, torn between sorrow and bitterness, while the boys were imprisoned in memories of their mother. Charles and Camilla paraded with Diana's jewelry as if public perception were merely a backdrop for their power play. The image of the two princes walking behind their mother's coffin haunted Anne. It was a scene of solitude amid a crowd, of betrayed trust, of the quiet fear that royal love had never been complete. Now, as the debate over Diana's jewelry erupted, Anne realized that her memory could not be used as a tool for power. She understood that protecting Diana's legacy was not only a duty to the past, but the only way to safeguard William and Harry from further harm. Amid the cold stares, grave words, and suffocating tension, Anne felt a mix of grief and responsibility. Empathy for the boys' pain, sorrow for their lost years, yet bitter amusement at the irony of Camilla and Charles's conduct, a king and a queen, all to assert power. While Diana's memory was reduced to mere ornaments in their game, Camilla sat there, crown atop her head, as if everything belonged to her. The throne, the power, even the memory of the deceased. Seeing her smile for the cameras, it was hard to believe that the woman once known as the other woman now dared claim Diana's entire legacy, brazenly. Not only had she taken Charles's heart, but she imagined herself entitled to every piece of jewelry, every symbol of a woman whose kindness had once touched the world. And Charles? He stood beside her, embarrassed yet furious, for deep in his heart, his love for Diana had never waned. Anne observed the scene, cold yet anguished. She saw clearly Camilla's ambition, not only to possess the throne fully, but to erase all traces that Diana had ever existed. Ironically, Camilla believed power could define the past, that a throne could transform memories into jewelry for her to display at will. But Anne knew better. All royal power was meaningless against the influence and legacy Diana had left in the hearts of the public. While Camilla flaunted her authority, Charles remained silent, hands clenched, eyes conflicted. He wanted to protect the last remnants of Diana's memory, yet feared confronting the truth Anne had just reminded him of. Power could not erase pain, and no audacity could obliterate the genuine love that had once existed. Anne sighed, voice both compassionate and sardonic. One may think the throne and crown make everything theirs, but no one can take the heart or memory of a person who lived, loved, and left an indelible mark.